Every Christmas, my parents wrapped the same lesson in different paper. Our house revolved around my brother, and I was just lucky to be in its orbit. If Daniel wanted the last gift, they said, "You're older, let him have it." If he broke my things, they said, "Don't provoke him." If he snapped at me in front of guests, they said, "He didn't mean it, don't be so sensitive." I learned to laugh it off, to swallow unfair with the turkey and smile in the family photos. Then one Christmas Eve they took it further. They sat me down by the tree, under lights I'd hung myself, and said calmly, "We've decided you're not going back to school. Not until you apologize to our son." That's the night something broke in me. And instead of begging for my education back, I made a different promise. I wasn't going to fight for a place in their house anymore. I was going to build a life they'd be forced to watch from the outside. That's how this story began. My name is Emily, and I grew up as a supporting character in the story of my own family. We were four: Mom, Dad, my younger brother Daniel, and me. On paper it looked normal. Middle-class house in a quiet neighborhood. Plastic reindeer in the yard every December. A garage full of half-finished projects my dad swore he'd get to soon. If you walked in on Christmas Day, you'd see a smiling family in matching pajamas, twinkling lights, too many side dishes. What you wouldn't see is how every conversation, every decision, every "we can't right now," somehow started and ended with Daniel. He was the sensitive one, the clever one, the boy of the house. I was reliable Emily, strong, low maintenance, the one who understood. That's how they said it too, always as a compliment. "You're not like your brother, you don't cause drama. You're our easy child. You'll be fine anywhere we put you." When I was little, I ate that up. Who doesn't want to be called strong? It took me years to realize strong in our house meant, you're the one we'll ask to give things up. My earliest clear memory of it is A Christmas Story, obviously. I was 8. Daniel was 6. Our tree was fake, a little lopsided, with branches that shed grimy green plastic needles whenever you looked at it too hard. Mom always complained, but she still fluffed it carefully every year, humming under her breath. That year there was one box I was sure was mine. Small, heavy, wrapped in shiny silver paper with my name written in loops on the tag. I'd shaken it gently when nobody was looking. I'd even held it to my ear. Sounded like possibility. I remember sitting cross-legged on the carpet, pajamas too short at the ankles, heart hammering as Mom finally passed it to me. "Go on, Em," she said. "Open it." I peeled the tape carefully. I've always been that way. Slow, neat, trying not to tear anything that didn't have to be broken. Inside was a brand new set of colored pencils. Not the cheap waxy kind. The good ones. The kind real artists on YouTube used. There was also a thick sketchbook, its first page blank and perfect. I'd been drawing on lined paper and the backs of junk mail for months. I'd circled this exact set in a catalog and left it accidentally open on the table. For once, it felt like they'd seen me. "Thank you," I breathed. "Oh my God, thank you." Daniel, sitting beside me, leaned over immediately. "Let me see," he said, reaching for the box. "Wait, I haven't." He grabbed the pencils, ripped the cardboard, one of the tins sliding out and clattering on the floor. "Be careful," I said, reaching instinctively. "They'll break." "I just want to check," he snapped. "Stop being selfish." I looked at Mom, at Dad, at anyone. Mom's smile wavered. "Danny, give them back to your sister. They're hers." He scowled. "She never shares anything." That wasn't true. Most of my things were secondhand. The few that were new were usually borrowed straight into his room. When I opened my mouth to protest, Dad cut in. "Em, don't make it a big deal," he said. "You can both use them. You're good at drawing anyway. You'll make them look nice. Your brother just wants to try. How many times had those words rewritten my reality? I watched Daniel pop open the tin roughly, pencils clinking. One snapped at the tip. The sound felt bigger than it was. Something inside me deflated in a way I was too young to name. "Okay," I said quietly. "We'll share." Mom smiled again, relieved. "See, this is why you're our good girl." I learned two things that Christmas. 1. If I wanted something to stay mine, I had to hide it. 2. If what I wanted conflicted with Daniel's feelings, I wasn't going to win. From there, the pattern just scaled. At 10, we both wanted to sign up for piano lessons. There was only money for one. "He's the one who needs discipline and structure," Dad said. "You're already focused." Piano, Daniel. Helping cook to keep Mom company. Me. At 12, I wanted to join the school's art club. The meetings were after class. Mom said it was too much logistics. Running around, picking you up. 2 months later, Daniel joined an after-school soccer program. Somehow there was gas money and time for that. "You know boys," Dad laughed. "They need to burn off energy." I started going straight home. Did my homework at the kitchen table while Mom prepped dinner, and Daniel came in muddy and triumphant, hugging her even though she said, "Don't you dare," and laughed anyway. Any time I tried to push back, the words were ready and waiting. "Don't be jealous. You know how he is. You're the older one. You're the stronger one." By 14, I'd become fluent in swallowing anger. By 16, I could already tell you how any conflict in our house would end. With me rushing to smooth it over and Daniel being told, "It's okay, we love you, just try not to do it again." What kept me going was school. Not the building. Not the homework. The idea of it. School was the only place I felt like a person who wasn't defined by my brother's moods. Teachers liked me because I actually did the readings. I made quiet, weird friends who thought my sketchbook was cool instead of something to raid. Guidance counselors talked to me like I had a future. Scholarship potential, they said. First-gen college material. "You could really go somewhere, Emily. For once. You'll be fine anywhere," sounded like a promise, not a dismissal. Clung to that. To grades. To late-night study sessions. To college brochures I hid under my bed like other kids hid magazines. Christmas at home became easier when I could think. Just a couple more years. Then I'm out. Which is exactly why the night they dangled school itself over my head hurt the way it did. It started small like everything else. With Daniel messing up. And me being told to fix it. It was the week before Christmas break. I was 16, 2 years away from escaping. The air in our town smelled like wet asphalt and fake pine. The kind that comes from cheap candles in every shop window. School, everything was winding down. Teachers were tired. Students were wired. Our lockers were full of candy canes and half-hearted secret Santa gifts. I was walking home, backpack heavy, when my phone buzzed. Come straight home. No stops. We need to talk. Those words never mean anything good. My stomach dropped. When I walked in, the house was too quiet. No TV. No music. Just my parents at the table, serious faces on, and Daniel on the couch, arms crossed, looking annoyed, not afraid. That told me everything I needed to know about who was on trial. "What happened?" I asked, dropping my bag slowly. Mom's jaw was tight. Dad's hands were folded like he was about to deliver a sermon. "Sit," he said. Sat. No one offered me a drink. No one asked about my day. Mom slid a crumpled piece of paper across the table. It was a printed email from the vice principal. Words jumped out at me in black and white. Incident. Harassment. Locker vandalism. Sibling conflict. My breath caught. Daniel cleared his throat. "I already told you, they're exaggerating," he muttered. "It was just a joke." Dad shot him a look. "Let us handle this." He turned back to me. "We got a call from your school today. About you and your brother." My heart pounded. What about us? Mom's eyes were wet, but not from sadness. From embarrassment. They say you accused him of stealing from your bag, she said. In front of other students. Loudly. In the hallway. I closed my eyes for a second. But he had taken from my bag. He'd stolen a set of markers I'd saved up for. Cheap ones, nothing fancy, but I'd babysat for weeks to afford them. When I found them in his backpack, caps chewed, half of them already dried out, while he laughed with his friends about my little art freak sister. Something in me snapped. We'd shouted. People had watched. The vice principal had stepped in. You humiliated your brother, Dad said now. Publicly. You stole from me, I shot back at Daniel. He shrugged, not even trying to look guilty. I was going to give them back. After you ruined them, said. Enough. Mom snapped, louder than I'd heard her in months. We are not doing this again. We talked to the school. We heard their side. Now you listen to ours. My hands curled into fists on my knees. Their side. Did anyone ask about mine? Dad leaned forward. We don't need to hear your side to know one thing. Family comes first. You do not drag private issues into public. You do not attack your brother's character in front of strangers. Attack his character. That phrase stung. What about my character? I asked quietly. What about all the times he's taken my things, called me names, made jokes about me in front of his friends? Boys joke, Dad said. You're too sensitive. The room spun slightly. I am the only reason he hasn't been suspended already, Mom added. Do you know what they said? That if this keeps up, they can't have you two in the same school. I latched onto that like a lifeline. So transfer him, I said. You always say public school is fine. Send him to the one across town. 3 pairs of eyes stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. Emily, Dad said slowly. Be serious. I am serious, I said. You're the ones acting like his behavior has no consequences. Mom slammed her palm on the table. The sound made me jump. You will not talk about your brother like that under our roof, she hissed. He is going through a phase. He has issues. You know that. We are trying to protect him. And me. Yes. Silence. Dad sighed like I was a difficult client dragging out a meeting. We've thought about this, he said. We prayed about it. That was never a good sign. We've decided you're not going back to school after the break, he continued. Not until you apologize properly to your brother and the vice principal. We told them you would. For a second, I genuinely thought I'd misheard. What? You're suspended from school, Mom said. Her voice strangely calm now that the decision was out. From our side. You will stay home, think about your behavior, and fix the damage you've done to this family's reputation. The words crashed over me too slowly. Not going back. Suspended. From our side. You're punishing me, I said. So he doesn't have to face what he did. We're correcting you, Dad said. You're the one who escalated. You're the one who made a scene. My chest felt tight like the air had thickened. Do you understand how much school means to me? I whispered. Mom's eyes were cold now. If it meant that much, you would have protected it by holding your tongue. We're done arguing. Until you apologize, your schooling is on hold. Christmas lights blinked on the tree behind them. Red, green, like a slow, mocking heartbeat. I looked at Daniel. He shifted, uncomfortable, but not enough to speak up. He could have ended it with one sentence. It's not fair. He didn't. That was the moment something in me shifted from hurt to clarity. I was always going to lose in a house where my future was negotiable and his comfort wasn't. So I nodded once. Okay, I said. Dad relaxed. Mom exhaled, misreading my tone like they always did. We knew you'd see reason, Dad said. We'll revisit this after the holidays. Maybe if Christmas goes well, We can start fresh in January. Christmas. They just threatened my education like it was a grounding. And they were already talking about the holiday menu. That night, lying in my bed, staring at the ceiling, one thought pulsed in my head over and over. If they can suspend the only thing that gives me a way out, they don't think I'll ever really leave. They weren't protecting Daniel. They were betting on my fear, which meant I had two options: apologize or stop being afraid. On Christmas Eve, while they were in the living room stringing lights and pretending everything was normal, I opened my laptop. Not for schoolwork, for job applications, online classes, anything that existed outside their control. If they wanted to hold my schooling over my head like a leash, I just have to learn how to run without it. Christmas Eve in our house always felt staged. Candles, music, too much food for 4 people. Mom in an apron she bought, just for the holidays. Dad carving meat like we were in a movie. This year it felt like I was watching that movie from behind glass. They'd suspended my schooling like it was a Wi-Fi password they could turn off. I'd spent the last 3 days replaying that sentence in my head. You're not going back to school until you apologize to our son. Every time I thought about saying I'm sorry, the words felt like someone else's. Apologizing to the vice principal. Fine. Apologizing to Daniel for telling the truth. Well, so instead of begging, I made a list. Things I could do without them. Study for my GED or cities on my own. Work somewhere that didn't require a diploma yet. Apply for whatever scholarships, grants, or community programs I could find. Was it ideal? Well, was it going to be harder than just saying sorry? Definitely. But for the first time, the hard thing didn't scare me as much as staying here did. On Christmas Eve afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. Job boards, community college websites, independent study programs. Most of them wanted money I didn't have or documents I might never see if my parents kept their hands on my education. But I kept digging. I found a community center downtown that offered free prep classes and testing resources for at-risk youth and non-traditional students. I wasn't sure if my parents put my schooling on hold until I apologized to their golden child, counted as at risk. But it felt close enough. I sent an email. Simple. Hi, my name is Emily. I'm 16. My parents are not currently allowing me to attend high school. I want to finish my education anyway. Do you accept students like me in your programs? I hovered over send for a second, then clicked. A tiny act, invisible in the noise of the house.